Good evening. Welcome to my pilot segment of my book reviews. This is Michael Nohili. So in these book reviews, we'll bring you closer. Actually, do that. In my book reviews, I will tell my interpretation of the storyline, and just keep in mind disclosure. There will be spoiler alerts in these book reviews. So if you don't like spoiler alerts, do not watch my video. Unless you want to be spoiled, or unless you've read the book already and want to, hear my review. Anyway, first and foremost, I hope for those who subscribe to my channel and have watched my videos, I appreciate you all a lot. I do vlogs and I will do book review segments. Other segments, we'll see. I don't know. Anyway, so the first honorary book that will be reviewed by me will be In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park with Maryanne Vollers. So this is a memoir about Yeonmi's escape from North Korea to freedom. I'll try to keep it as concise as possible, but there's a lot entailed to it. So if this video is long, it gets boring for you, I understand. But if you want to go along with the ride, go ahead. So, In Order to Live is basically about Yeonmi Park and her mom, dad, and older sister. In the time in the 1990s when Yeonmi was born a few years before me. She was born in the early 90s. Some white, I think 1993. Excuse me. Anyway, so they grew up at a time where North Korea was facing a famine. Excuse me, a famine, and and she was, basically her mother taught her older sister and her not to have an opinion on the Kim Jong Un. The Kim family. So even like a nice constructive criticism will lead to a grave offense, grave punishment. So North Korea, it's a very brutal country. It is a living hell. It is. I'm only get to my opinion about North Korea, but I'll tell you one thing. Reading this book gives me a strong opinion about it. Although I knew what I was getting into reading this book, but holy crap, it is such an awe-inspiring story. The journey was tragic in the story, but the victory, glorious. So, back to the story. They were born, Yeonmi Park was born during the famine in the early 1990s. And, basically, the story about, they're just surviving, unless you're in Pyongyang, unless you're Pyongyang, which is everyone has the benefits of eating and having the benefits of the countryside. Where in North Korea, the people living in the rural areas have no electricity, living like it's 1950s, since the Soviets had an influence on North Korea during the Korean War. So it's very, very intense. North Korea, basically they'll try to eat, basically they're eating bugs. They'll be lucky enough to have a little bit of rice, a little bit. They're so malnourished in the family. And also, at one point in North Korea, in this time in Park's life, her dad gets into some sort of trouble, with the regime, and he had to go to like re-educational camp, or whatever you call it. And it's just very intense. So basically, so Father was like, out of her life for a while, and it got to a point where Yeonmi wanted to just say, screw it, let's leave North Korea, go to China. But they hoped that China was a better ideal place for them to have a bowl of rice. That was her dream, just having food. And so at this point, before they even defect, the mother and father were, okay, on so-so terms. they were divorced at this point, but they still had a little connection despite some discrepancies and friction. So before Yeonmi and her mom decided to go on this very long trekking, long journey together, her oldest sister defects and disappears. And Yeonmi and her mom haven't seen her in many years, maybe 7 years, I remember correctly. Basically, in this back in 2007, and so after the sister left North Korea, the mother and Yunomi go across the river when it's frozen in wintertime, so they have a better chance to go across the river to China, with hopes and dreams of having food. And not so fast, but there's a catch, a very horrific one. When they get there, they deal with human traffickers, and they don't even know. The mother and Yunomi don't know what that means. They never heard of a human trafficker. And basically, one of the human traffickers wanted to, I make it cancel for this, rape Yunomi. And Yunomi was at the time 13, and mother says, "Don't do it, do it to me instead." And Yunomi was there when she heard it. She didn't see what happened, but she heard what happened, and fucked up enough, the mother got raped again. And that time, Yunomi saw it, and that was her unfortunate first vision or lesson about sexual activities. I was like, holy shit! These people that have to go through that. Sorry, I'm a little overwhelmed about that part. That just got to me because I never really got raped, thankfully, but I can only imagine. I felt the humility and the weakness that they had. Then not only did this happen, they got sold. They were slaves. They were like, how to do what human traffickers wanted them to do. I'll give you this, but you got to do what I want to do in return, tenfold. It's really fucked up. And basically, there was points where me and mom got separated, and they had separated by different human traffickers. It's just it's crazy events. Like, I won't get into every detail, but it's nuts, as you can tell. And even one point, Yunomi's owner, beat her up, and Yunomi tried to fight her way through to fight every time that she was getting assaulted. But at one point, she decided, this part actually is deep to say. So this point, she's like, you know what? I don't care what happens to me. I have nothing to lose. If I'm gonna get what I want, I'm obligated to do what my owner wants me to do. And she got raped at 13 years old. Holy shit. I'm sorry. It's very, like, I'm thinking, just talking about it, it's like very overwhelming for me. So before we get off topic for a bit, Yeonmi Park, if you see this video, you are a blessing. You are a blessing in this world, and I appreciate you telling us the stories your story, because it's definitely needed to say. And I'm sure there's a lot of horrific stories throughout history and throughout this world even today. So kudos for you to having the courage and most importantly the spirit to tell your story. Because I don't know, if I would experience that, I would probably keep it to myself. That's how humiliating it is. So I have to give you a lot of credit. Anyway, back to the story. So they, after eventually they get warmed up to the owners, and the owners get warmed up to them, and mother and Yeonmi united, and I forget how they come across this, but they go to this Christian missionary, in a place that begins with a Q in China. I forget the name of the place. I don't know how to pronounce it. So they go there, hopes to that was a leading point for them to go to Mongolia, to the Gobi Desert, in hopes that Mongolia will help them take them to South Korea, that's when they realized that South Korea may be the maybe the answer they'll need. Let's keep it going. So eventually, after they go to the missionary, they go do 5 barbed wire fence to get to Mongolia, hoping that Mongolians are nice. It's a better gateway to South Korea. Not so fast. The military comes, and I think they were in tanks. They try to take them back to China, and Yeonmi Park had nothing to lose at this point. She was saying, "Don't take me back, or I'll kill myself." She was going to kill herself. At this point, it was either freedom of bad countries or freedom out of his life. Either way, she was going to win or lose, depending how you interpret it. So so basically, she was like, "Please don't do it. Don't do it. I'll kill myself." It's crazy that people have to think like this because of some group of assholes, scumbags. And so eventually, the Mongolian army gave in, and at one point the embassy, South Korea embassy, took them, the mom and Yeonmi, to South Korea, to another center. Well, they were a center in Mongolia before they went to another center in South Korea, and they had to take their clothes off to make sure they're not it was humiliating. They had to make sure they weren't spies. They had to make sure they weren't sick. They had to do a whole thing, a whole procedure of how to make sure they could be fit to be in South Korean society. After a while, after being center, eventually were given an apartment somewhere in the countryside away from Seoul, where it was cheaper, obviously, for them to stay, and the government was giving them some money for X amount of years. And so Yeonmi wanted to keep her dad a promise by getting education and all that. However, because she was just surviving and not really going to school through her life, she had for someone who was at high school age, she had elementary school grades or placements, basically. So basically, instead of being in elementary school, which would be way too young for her, she had to go to middle school and had to work her way up and fit in South Korean way of life, not having the accent, overcome the fact that she's North Korean, and she had to face all these adversities. At this point in the story, she's learning about Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, who fought for their freedom back in 1960s here in the United States, and at this point she felt like more freedom. She could she watches shows like Friends, and understanding how the Western world or normal world really should be. She was starting to adapt to this normal life that was not normal to her back in North Korea. And so she was going to school, and she decided to take a break at one point, do some missionary work for in the United States, and one point in Costa Rica and other places. I'm not sure there's another country involved. So at one point she gets a call from her mom saying, "Hey, guess what? Your sister's back." And Yeonmi couldn't believe it. She dropped everything she had to do, they were supposed to. Nothing else matters. I'm going to see my sister, and she did. And when she saw her sister back in South Korea, some point not too long after, basically, the sister was in the same state of mind as the mom and Yeonmi were when they first arrived to South Korea. They had really had to learn how to learn the basic stuff, and learn how to mentally comprehend that this place is a lot different than from what she was used to growing up in North Korea. And that's almost the end of the story. And the end of the story, basically, it was Yeonmi's mom went to get ashes. Oh, I failed to mention this. So when Yeonmi and her mom defected to North Korea, the sister was already gone out of the country. The father stayed. But once like I said, the human traffickers got warmed up to Yeonmi and her mom, basically they let the father come in to China from North Korea. But at this point, he was very ill, and in China he died of cancer and had he was buried. His ashes were buried somewhere in China, I think the Northeast somewhere. Anyway, so now back to the end of the story. Um, the mom went to get ashes. The father, her ex-husband's ashes. Although they got divorced, but they still love for each other. She went to get his ashes and brought him back to South Korea. Now the only fulfillment that um, Yeonmi wants to do for her dad is hopefully they'll put his ashes next to her grandfather and great grandfather, so he could be reunited with his father and grandfather next to the Yalu River, which is right border of North Korea and China, and basically she hopes again that North and South Korea will reunify, so she gets to visit her grandma's grave in right now it's North Korea. So basically, she's hoping for reunification of North Korea and South Korea. B1, hopefully not as bad, as be good as it was before the Korean War, before the Japanese imperialism. So I want to say, Yeonmi Park, you're a blessing to this world. No matter how tragic your journey was, your victory is glorious. Don't forget that. If you ever come across my videos, just let me know you are a hero, because you may have spoke spoke for a lot of people. I mean, not just North Koreans, but other people who are afraid to share their deepest, darkest stories. So, you are brave. You are a good-hearted person, and I'm happy to have you, in my life. As far as me knowing about you. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next book review. And before I go, the next book I'll read is 1984 by George Orwell. I've seen the 1954 movie version of the movie. It's very scary. Not like horror scary, but it's scary how true it is. Like my story, how dystopic North Korea is. Although it's not North Korea, but it might as well will be. And after that, I'll read this 1,000-page book called The Brothers Karamazov. I gotta remember spelling. The Brothers Karamazov. This book, it will take me a little while to read. So, with that being said, I'm not gonna do reviews a lot, but when I finish a book, I will do reviews. Okay, first chance given, I'll do book reviews once I'm done with the book. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's long. I think you have a great night, good morning, wherever you are, and stay blessed and see you soon.